Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Retro Gamer. And what I'm going to do in this episode and in this series is I page through Retro Gamer and talk about any highlights in the articles, but mostly I play the games in it. I basically use this magazine as my prompt of what retro games I'll play this month, and it leads to a lot of great discoveries and lets me revisit a lot of classics. And I'd love to share that experience with you. It should be a real cozy time. This is the Banjo Kazooie issue. It is number 278, the November 2025 release. So let's check it out. I think it's important to note right away that one of the writers of Retro Gamer, Nick Thorp, has unfortunately passed away. I just read that on Blue Sky. Like, as soon as I got this magazine, I read that announcement. And, I don't want to overstate how well I know Nick Thorpe or anything. I don't, but I've been, reading this magazine for the last 2.5 years, and certainly, his presence is noticed as a writer and a contributor. And it's always hard to lose somebody that, provides you content that you consume, and now that is a kind of a void, My condolences to anybody that knows Nick, obviously all the people that work for the magazine. I'm sure there'll be a fitting memorial for him in a future issue. But I just noticed that there's an ad for Ratcheteer DX here. So there's an article about this in the magazine. Ratcheteer is a Playdate game, which is being made into a PC game. We'll get to that in a second, but I just noticed that ad. That's cool. Here's a full write-up on the Vectrex Mini. That is, maybe as of now, it's available. Kickstarter's over, and I think it's succeeded. Or maybe I haven't checked on it for a while. But it was a Kickstarter of a mini console, like the NES Mini, the Super Nintendo Mini. This is a Vectrex Mini, and it's really cool. It comes with 12 games, and it says right here there's only 28 games on the Vectrex at all. And so this is going to include about half of them. I try to look for a list of what games are going to include so I can play some of them. I couldn't find a definitive list, so I'll just play some Vectrex games that I like that I'm guessing will be on it. They're some of the popular ones. But the Vectrex is a really great console that I love. I think as far like game for game, so much of the library is good. Like as far as there's no junk here. There's 28 games on it, and I'm pretty sure almost all of them are very playable even today. And if you've never played a real Vectrex, and I haven't, it's really, really amazing how it looks. It looks like nothing you've ever seen because it doesn't use... It's a whole different technology of how it draws the art. It doesn't draw them like pixels or using a grid. It makes vector lines, so it's like an oscilloscope. Like the line is it. It's a line. And I've only experienced it. I went to a retro arcade museum we had in Minneapolis like 5 years ago. There was a video game exhibit. And as part of that exhibit, they had some of these old arcade games, like the original Asteroids, which also is a vector-based machine, and a couple other games I can't remember. Those look so amazing. Like there's just this glow to it. The lines being so straight. You're just not used to seeing that, and it does really feel magical. Even though that was the tech that was available before, before what we have today, it still feels more magical than what we have today in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, this machine does not emulate, or it's an emulation device. It doesn't actually draw vector graphics, so it's not like a real tube, TV tube. But it does come with a vector clock app, so when it's idling, it shows you like an app, basically, of the clock and the weather, which is a really cool ad. I think that's awesome. If you're into that kind of thing, I would follow up and get this kickstarted for yourself or buy it, I'm probably not. I'm not a collector of the mini consoles, but I do love a Vectrex play session. So there you go. Here's Berserk on Vectrex. I think this is probably my favorite version of Berserk, just because I like the Vectrex so much. Berserk's a fun game. I played it on the Atari consoles. Never played the arcade version, actually. It's a game that is kind of confusing to me because you don't have to kill the bad guys to go to the next level. And maybe I'm just thinking of levels a little too literally, but like most games like Asteroids or Space Invaders or, Centipede, you have to kill all the bad guys and then you go to the next level. in Berserk, you can just go to the next level whenever you feel like it, and every door just leads you to a random level. I mean, I guess it's not telling you what level you're on, so I suppose you just are walking around trying to maximize your score, and there's like a tension between when the evil smiley face comes to kill you and how long you can linger before you leave. I guess that's interesting, now that I'm saying it out loud. But yeah, Berserk's a super fun game. There's a real thrill to, like, making a perfect shot, you know, like a nice diagonal shot that hits an enemy perfectly. There's a real joy to that. It's, as for how simplistic it is, a lot of fun is packed into this game. And here we have Clean Sweep. This is the obligatory Pac-Man game on the console. You can tell you're eating dots in a maze, so there you go. You're this kind of a weird jar creature, and you're being chased by these spiky mouths that want to eat you. I mean, as far as, like, the game is playable, and it's fine. It's a little bit different than Pac-Man in that as you eat dots, you get bigger, and then you have to go and deposit your dots in the center, and then you get small again. So you can't just go eat all the dots. You have to, like, go and you have to take, like, excursions into the maze and then drop them off over and over again. And that's a little different. I also don't think there's power pellets, so you just have to really dodge the entire time. The problem with the game is it looks broken. Like, if you're looking at the maze here, like, what is wrong with the lines? You know what I mean? They're not, like, connected, they're not aligned properly, it isn't clear where you're supposed to go. And even when you eat the dots, like, they're not aligned correctly with your little pot. You know, like, they're just, the alignment's all off in the whole game. So, it looks really cheap in that way, and that is not one of my favorites. I don't have an overlay for this, so you're missing that kind of color element. But I thought it'd be nice to show what Vectrex looks like, you know, in the nude as well as the overlays. But this is, you know, it's a passable Pac-Man game if you have a Vectrex and you're looking for that. Here is Spike. This is the mascot platformer of the console. And it's actually a really interesting game. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, it looks like a complete disaster. But when I started playing it, it's actually really cool. So you have this kind of cool 3D effect, and you are trying to get up to the top. It's a single screen platformer, very much like Donkey Kong, I guess, because there's like ladders and platforms, and there's, you know, enemies falling down. But so you can jump, you can attack, you do like a little kick, and you can kill the enemies with a kick. And then the third button moves the ladders around. So if you see that ladder jumping around like crazy, I'm actually doing that. I'm pressing a button that moves the ladders. And you kind of get used to the preset positions of where the ladder could be. And basically you want to put yourself where the ladder's going to be, and then click the button to make the ladder there, and then you climb it. It's kind of weird, like, what that means, like, in the lore. Like, are you controlling the ladder button, or is that, like, your ladder, and that's how they choose to let you use it? But you gotta get the key, which is somewhere in the level. Then you gotta bring the key to the top, and then jump through this bar, like this bars. So I guess, like, you're in a jail cell or a dungeon, and you're getting the key and climbing out, and you're climbing your way up this tower to rescue your girlfriend Molly, who got kidnapped, and your name is Spike. You'll notice the game has, like, voice samples in it, which is amazing for this early. and they're actually pretty good. Really fun game, really funner than I thought. The 3D effect plays well. The controls are fine and very responsive once you get used to what you're doing. And the main character here is very charming and cute and says "darn it" when he dies. This is a great game. I played it for longer than I expected. The final game for my Vectrex night is Hyperchase, and for this one I do have the overlay, so you can see how the cool Vectrex color effect. This game really looks cool. Like the sense of speed and perspective on this is really awesome. The middle line coming at you is cool. Those street lamps are awesome. But yeah, basically you're just driving up this road and trying to avoid bad guys. The controls are a little bit weird because you don't just like go left and right like you'd expect. It's like you're on a joystick, and if you tilt the joystick left and right, your car moves along with that tilt. But if you let it go, it snaps back to the center, right? So you have to like put tension on the joystick in the direction you want in a very light way. And if you hit it all the way, you just fly off the road. So you really have to be super gentle with how you use the stick. And you can see like the movement is really frantic as I'm trying to like double back and overcompensate for how much I'm moving it. It takes a while to get used to, but it does create a pretty unique experience. But yeah, this game is there's not much to the gameplay, but it is fun. And if you play this back in the day, the sense of speed and smoothness would have been remarkable. It still is today, but it just, you know, when you can play Outrun 2 on arcade, it's like this is primitive. But you can definitely see that this is impressive. Some more sad news. Billy Hudson from the Game Chasers also passed away, and this happened a couple months ago. So I'm glad they're calling it out here. I really feel like I knew Billy, more so than like Nick Thorp, who I read his content, but I don't know him. Right? Billy is like plays himself on YouTube, and I've been watching that show for like 100 episodes. He's been like in my living room. Like he's talked to me. You know what I mean? I mean, this is parasocial. Not really. But I really do feel like I know him. And this loss really affected me a lot, a couple months ago when it happened. But yeah, that's too bad. Again, my condolences to everybody that knew Billy. There's a lot of quotes in here about Pat the NES Punk and Joe Redifer from GameSack talking about how great Billy was. He did seem like a really great guy. He's got kids and everything. So it's a really, really bad loss. I think he was younger than I am. This article right here, article, like a little paragraph. System 3 has delayed its The Last Ninja collection on consoles. That's so funny to me because who's really like asking for The Last Ninja collection? That game is basically like a forgotten game. I think no one ever talks about it. I've barely heard of it, but I do have a series on this channel called NES A to Z where I play through, or I play every game on Nintendo in alphabetical order, and I just passed the L's, and The Last Ninja was one of the games that we recently played, and I gave it a 1 out of 1, The Last Ninja on Nintendo. I don't know what all is in the collection here, but I mean, it's not a bad game, but it's also like hard to call it a good game.
Where are you? You start like on the second floor.
I'm at the zoo?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a zoo here.
It looks like a gated community or...
Violence.
And on the bottom right,
tolerated.
There's a picture of your ninja face with the Statue of Liberty behind you. So
does that
you're in Central Park.
give any information?
You're in New York. You're in Central Park, New York.
Maybe it's a parasite. Do I have a... Oh, there we go.
Parasite.
Just growing out of my shoulder. That looks like the Statue of Liberty.
I like that you continue right where you died.
Yeah.
So.
And this building must house motherfuckers.
MF. I get the joke. MFers. That's a bit of commentary. Didn't make it into the first video.
No, that's because you never made it to this level.
You never made it.
Right fodder.
there's a documentary made by Joe Redifer from GameSack and My Life in Gaming. They made a electronic gaming monthly documentary. And as of when I first highlighted this to like make sure I talk about it, I hadn't seen it yet. Now, it's been a month later. I did watch the documentary, and it's really good. It's everything you want out of a documentary about video games. They have interviews with all the writers. They have a lot of interesting stories about, what the Wild West was like of reviewing games back then, how the magazine performed. Really great. It's like an hour and a half long. It's free on YouTube. You should check it out. This is a interesting editorial here by Ian Lee, where, a couple issues ago when that Vectrex Mini was first announced, I remember myself saying, oh, it doesn't do real vector graphics, so I'm not interested. And a lot of people are saying that. And he's saying, well, first off, like, that's just not possible. Like, they can't do that, and make that an affordable console. There's no tech available. They can't just start mass producing TV tubes. So it's not going to it was never going to happen. But other than that, people can't play Vectrex games. Like, we need more. We should be encouraging more re-releases of Vectrex games. We need more collections. We need more mini consoles. So we shouldn't complain and nitpick about little things. We should just be happy that they're becoming accessible. And that's sort of what this is about. And I agree with that. And I apologize what I said. I apologize that I talked bad about that device. Spelunky is a game that I never played much. I know that it was like an indie darling during the period of like when all the indie games really blew up, and there was like a very vibrant indie scene. And I mean, now there still, of course, is a very vibrant indie scene. But when it first started, I think maybe it was like 2014, maybe. I'm guessing. I don't know when this actually came out. I'm guessing that's when it was. 2014, maybe like 2012, that like period where Braid came out and Fez and VVVV and all these like classic, now classic indie games that really like jump-started like, hey, you can have really good and deep games that aren't AAA releases. And I think Spelunky was in that, within a couple years of that. I might be completely off there, but that's in my head, that's what I got. But I never really played Spelunky much. I mean, I have played it, but not too much. And it looks like this is like a re-release they're showing a picture of, some kind of a new version, which looks really like the graphics are, more modernized and cute, but the gameplay looks the same. I'm actually interested in playing the demake on Pico 8 called Dunkkey. So that's what you're going to be looking at. And here is that Ratcheteer article that I talked about. It's so Ratcheteer, you can see up here, it's a black and white game on the Playdate using the crank. And it was part of the first season of Playdate games, and it was like a Zelda-like, basically. It's a Zelda-style game where you use a lantern. It plays a lot with darkness and light, and you use like a big wrench as your primary weapon, and you get a lot of items. It is very Zelda-like for sure. And it looks like the creator here, Sean Inman, is porting it or remaking it for Steam, and he's adding color. So based on what I'm seeing, it looks like a Game Boy Color game, and if these screenshots are to go on anything, he's not changing the game at all. He's just going to make it color and available to everybody, even if you don't have a Playdate. Which I think makes a lot of sense, because the Playdate's a pretty niche console, and there's really no reason that those games shouldn't come out on a Steam Deck or whatever. So good for him. I hope it sells really well. The game is certainly well made, and I think it's a one-man show. I think this dude did everything, and that's amazing. It's gonna go on Steam and on Switch. So look out for that. If you like Zelda, this game is definitely right up your alley. It's awesome. Would you believe if I told you that I've never played a Pokemon game? It's true. Back in the noughties is always a very difficult page to get through because they just have tons and tons of games listed that I'd love to go back to, because this is, I mean, I guess all of the past is when I game the most, but 2009 is, I'm post high school, post college, just becoming an adult, and I can buy whatever I want, and I have no responsibilities, and I just have money burning holes in my wallet. So this is when I just bought everything I ever wanted, and I was really living in a renaissance of gaming, because it was the first time I had no school, no homework, a job, and no other responsibilities. So like every game here is like I played. The Xbox to 360 conversion, like the switch over was when it was, and man. But there's a ton of games here that I didn't highlight. I highlighted 2. Plants vs. Zombies. This is another one of those indie games from that indie game renaissance. Plants vs. Zombies. And BioShock 2. So I'll be happy to play a little Plants vs. Zombies. I'm playing it on the iOS edition on my phone, which is, it's free to play there, so I can just play that there. It seemingly is the exact same game, but I have a lot of thoughts about Plants vs. Zombies that I'll share with you during gameplay. Plants vs. Zombies is a game that got a lot of buzz at the time. I think probably because it's just so casual that anybody can play it and feel like a gamer. It's kind of like Bejeweled, or Candy Crush. It's a game that's just so easy for anybody to play. But I am more of a gamer type, and I'm familiar with tower defense games. And as far as tower defense games go, this is not a good one. It's got charming animations, and it does end up having a lot of variety. As you play into it, you get all kinds of stuff. There's ice and piranha plants and mushrooms and ice shooters, and you actually do get some strategy on how you want to put your rows together. But you're just what you're watching right now is level 4, and just look how slow and boring it is. It can't even hold my attention. As a second screen game, I could barely fend off my boredom playing this. And the problem with it is the way you got to make the currency. You build these sunflowers in the back row, and they slowly give you sunlight, which is your money. And every single level starts like this, where you build the last row of sunflowers, and then start producing some currency. And it takes forever. It takes 5 full minutes to get to this, setup where you can actually now start playing. What if you just start with 500 sunlight off the jump and just get the game going? Or 2, start with the last row of sunflowers already planted, and then you have to protect them. You know what I mean? It's actually exactly what Blizzard did with StarCraft 2. If you played StarCraft 2, you might remember you started with 4 SCVs or drones or probes. And then you had to build a bunch of them. And then it was years later, they patched the game and just had you start with 12 SCVs instead, because literally all everybody does is build up to 24 SCVs in the early game. So they just got the game going so much faster by just giving you 12. That's something that Plants vs. Zombies really could benefit from. And this is the EA has this game on sale still, or it's free to play with ads, and there are ads, and they're awful. I cannot handle a mobile game with ads, but I put up with it just to capture this footage for you guys. Who's it's out there because why not, right? But no one should be playing this game now. There's so many better tower defense games, and I think even probably there's better Plants vs. Zombie games now. I'm sure that, I'm positive they have other Plants vs. Zombie games available nowadays that are more robust than this one. But, it's a relic of the time. And then BioShock 2 is just an awesome, awesome game. The whole BioShock series I really like.
You arrive, as the little one said you would.
My first memory of BioShock, and BioShock 1, my first BioShock memory, was getting the demo. And in the demo, there's a scene where one of the crazy, women, I forgot what they're called, splicers. They're called splicers. She was hovering over a baby carriage and talking to her baby. And at this point, you already know everybody's crazy and there is not a baby here. So immediately I'm thinking, well, there's a dead baby in there, or a fetus in a jar, or somewhere a baby's, or a little creepy decapitated doll, or some weird thing, right? And then you end up killing the woman because she's crazy and she attacks you. And then you look in the carriage, and in it is a gun. It's a revolver all tucked in like a baby. And I remember that as such a cool scene because it subverted my expectations, but still presented something creepy and very in-world, you know? I thought that was really cool. So here we're playing Bioshock 2, and in Bioshock 2, you actually are one of the big daddies, the big monsters. The cover of Bioshock has this big, like, it's a, you know, like, well, it's one of those, like, old-timey diver suits. It's a diver suit, and they're these humans, but they're mutated and turned into giant cybernetic monsters, and then you fight them in Bioshock 1, and in Bioshock 2, you are one of them. Although, honestly, it doesn't really feel like it because you're still about as strong as you always were. But you do have the drill arm, and you do have the rivet gun, so I suppose you're armed like them. One of my favorite bits about Bioshock, you know, other than everything, is all of the little things you pick up. Like, when you loot places, everything is full of little trinkets. And they're all, you know, not very useful. But I just love looting corpses and looting random cases and having stuff be in them. It gives me real Fallout vibes, you know, where it's fun to just rummage around and pick up junk, and you get like cigarettes and half-eaten donuts and cupcakes and bullets, and you know, everything does something, and I just love the rummaging and the scrappiness of the game. Yeah, really awesome. I have the PlayStation 4 Anniversary Collection or something, which includes all 3 games and all the DLCs. Like, what a deal. I have all 3 games on 360, but I bought them all again on the PS4 just because, like, having that one disc have all the games was so fun. And I think I was missing, like, one DLC, so I just ended up getting everything. That's the one I'd recommend buying, or PS5, whatever. I'm sure it's there. Bioshock is an absolute classic, one of the best first-person shooter experiences out there. If you haven't played it, highly recommended. It's not even that long. The games aren't even very long, so you could beat them. Other games that I'm a fan of, let's see. I never played Resident Evil 5. Halo Wars I played in the last issue. That's a game that I thought was fake. Like, I thought that game was an abandoned version of Halo that they just never made. But yeah, they did actually make it, and it's available. It's good. I like it. Sega Mega Drive Collection. That's just a Sega collection on 360. I never had a PlayStation, but looking at what we got, Resident Evil, Killzone, Tom Clancy, Street Fighter. Okay, not too interested in that. PC, we got Total War. The last episode of the magazine was all about Total War. I've never played any Total War games. Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah, I actually didn't play any of those PC games. I did play The Sims a little bit, but... Atlantis on the Atari. I always love when I get to play an Atari game for this magazine because I know that I can get a full slice of the gameplay in one clip because Atari games are just so simplistic and arcadey that you can just 3 minutes of watching an Atari game and you're like, yep, I get it. And Atlantis is definitely one of those games. I've never really played it, and if you asked me what Atlantis was, I would have said, oh, it's like a Missile Command clone. But it's actually like almost the opposite of Missile Command. Whereas in Missile Command, you can control where you shoot, and the attacks are coming in a fixed trajectory. In Atlantis, you shoot at a fixed trajectory, and the enemies can kind of go wherever they want. So, I mean, they kind of just fly straight horizontally across the screen, but you have 3 different cannons, and the way they shoot is locked. So one cannon just shoots straight up, and then the other 2 cannons shoot diagonally across the screen. And you have to do some real thinking about which one you shoot when to time your shots, and it really tests completely different skills than Missile Command does. So Atlantis is a really cool, unique game on Atari that, is a real pleasure to play. You can see some of the fast-paced Atlantis gameplay here. I forgot to mention that another difference of Atlantis and Missile Command is you have unlimited ammo in Atlantis, so you can just really go crazy with your shooting. But you're much more limited in how you shoot. But yeah, the game is the colors are also very pleasant in the game. Like it's a lot more colorful than Missile Command. In its own way. Missile Command also is colorful, but this game has like these rainbow ships look really neat. They look like they're almost metallic in the way they glow, and the city looks vibrant at the bottom. Like the city looks like a place you want to save. In Missile Command it's like a brick building, but here the city looks like it's full of life. And all the green at the bottom and the black in space. That dichotomy is really well done, I think. Definitely an Atari game I'll be coming back to now that I'm more familiar with it, when I'm in my Atari mood. I'm going to fire up this one. All this thinking and talking about Missile Command, it made me want to play it so bad. Missile Command is hands down my favorite Atari 2600 game, and the Atari 2600 version of Missile Command is my favorite version of Missile Command among all the ones I've played. And Missile Command is on, future Atari games. There's a PlayStation version that's pretty bad. There's been like PC versions that are technically much better than this. And even Missile Command Rearmed, which is Atari's own remake, are all worse than this version, in my opinion. This just captures it. This is like, to me, Missile Command is video games. Like when I close my eyes and think of video game, this is the game that's playing in my head. The sounds, the overly dramatic apocalypse of nuclear war, the way it's caught in time and during the it's a very Cold War relic, right? A nuclear war happening, and the gameplay's so simple, but it's so good. There's a real skill to being able to time your shots and get them, get multiple comets or missiles in one explosion. You're conserving your ammo, so everything is relevant. The way the colors change makes it feel like it's sunset or sunrise or nighttime or nuclear winter. You can use your imagination, like what kind of a world you're in. It's just the perfect video game, and I cannot say enough good things about it. I will say this too, I play it often, and I play it every time I emulate. I play, like, when I'm testing an emulator out, or I'm testing on a new TV or whatever, I always put on Missile Command and check it out. It plays so well on handhelds. Like, this is an awesome handheld game. It's really fun on my Miu, it was fun on my Retroid. I bet it'd be fun on a Steam Deck too. You let me know. You guys own Steam Decks, you let me know. But yeah, Missile Command. 10 out of 10. And here, of course, is the cover article, the Banjo Kazooie issue. I did play a little bit of Banjo Kazooie in a previous session for a little bit, and I was kind of just lingering around in the tutorial section. I really wanted to commit myself to defeating the tutorial and getting into the real level. The tutorial, I think, is really bad in this game. Not bad in the way that it doesn't teach you the game. Bad in the way that you don't need to be taught this game. Like, they should just let you play it. Mario 64 did not have a tutorial. They just let you play. And it's really, I think, frankly, a little insulting to the gamers to have a tutorial in a game that doesn't really need one, you know, and it's long and it is boring. And going by that alone, I was about to give this game a bad rating. Like, oh, it's a yawn fest. But once I got through the tutorial and started actually playing the first, you know, world, it is really fun. I played it for about an hour, actually, and I got a lot of, you know, musical notes. I got a lot of puzzle pieces. I beat the whole first world. What I think beating it means is I collected all 10 puzzle pieces in the first world, which is enough to go to the next world. I did all that in one sitting, which, you know, it doesn't seem like that much, but it kind of is saying a lot when I'm trying to, you know, collect content for this article. I'm not really trying to, like, enjoy the games a ton. I did end up enjoying that one, and it's great. It's a good game. I always got Crash and Banjo confused, but now that I've played both games, I kind of have that figured out, so... Oh, and unfortunately, the footage I captured of me beating the whole first world, which had a lot of great footage, I just never hit record. So, classic content mistake. Just don't record the stuff you want to record. So I went back and got some more, you know, footage of me collecting some loose music notes. But I want you to know that I did play it for a while, and I just lost all that. There's also a Game Boy Advanced game called Grunty's Revenge, which I did play for like a second. I didn't record any footage because I want to just see if there's a big tutorial that I didn't want to record. And it plays like a top-down version of Banjo Kazooie. Pretty consistent with what you'd expect, which is awesome. The graphics look really good on Game Boy Advanced, but I didn't really capture any. Now, for Banjo Pilot, I did capture some footage, and this is a really cool racing game on Game Boy Advanced, which I guess it used to be a Diddy Kong Racing sequel based on the airplanes of Diddy Kong Racing, and the graphics are definitely there. And of course, Banjo was in Diddy Kong Racing. But I don't want to say they lost a license, because like they definitely own all those characters, but for some reason it ended up not being Diddy Kong Racing and just becoming a Banjo game, which, you know, hardly matters, honestly. It plays a lot like the airplane sections of Diddy Kong Racing, which is awesome, and it is a really fun game. I had fun playing this. It says here that they were going to make it tilt controls, so you actually turned the Game Boy Advance to control your airplane, but they couldn't do that because the screen was so bad on Game Boy Advance that if you moved the screen, you couldn't see anything. I didn't even know the Game Boy Advance had an accelerometer. That's crazy. Goes through and talks about the more modern games, which I've never played. I know there's a Banjo Tooie sequel that I didn't touch, and there's also Ukulele, the spiritual sequel, which also has like two different creatures that have, you know, the whole, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, Banjo Kazooie is Banjo and Kazooie, two different creatures that are together. And then Yuka and Lele do the, you know, kind of the same thing. Here's the covers. I have the subscriber cover, which is exclusive, and then there's the bookstore cover, the news rack cover. I like the news rack cover better here. I like it better because it says the Banjo Kazooie, and that font is really fun and accessible. I like the two color cut up there. That looks really nice. And I'm not really a big fan of this low poly early 3D CGI art. I think it looks kind of bad. I mean, I know that's what it looks like, but I don't think it needs to be blown up. I'd rather it be a flat color. This is better this time. This time, that's a better one. Here's a really cool little segment that I think is just cute. It's 8-bit jobs. It's games that are you doing a job as the gameplay, which is it's actually a pretty funny concept if you think about it. And there's a lot like this whole genre of games like, the desert truck driver, or the train games that they have in Japan, what's it called? Dago, whatever, something Dago, where it's like you're just conducting trains or you're bus driving, or even the pressure washer cleanup games. It's funny how many games there are that are just like a job, but they make it fun. I guess like Diner Dash even, and all those little cooking mama games are sort of like that. Anyway, so here we have Paperboy, which is a game that I forgot about, basically. I used to have this on Nintendo, and I remember vividly playing it with my friends, like, at sleepovers. I must have been like 10 or 11 at the time. We're playing Paperboy all night long. We're switching off, we're playing it forever, and having the time of our lives, sleepovers. Like, let's play Paperboy, who can get further in the week. And I remember it being just the most fun. And now I'm playing it here, and I don't want to say it's not fun, but it's like impossible. Like, it's so hard. I can't believe as an 11-year-old I could ever even beat the first day, let alone get into it. I mean, I don't remember how far I got, but I remember not being as frustrated as I was today. It's crazy. And here's a game called Trash Man, which I played on the Spectrum a couple of magazines ago, and I really hated it. It's a slow and bad game where you're collecting trash and putting it in a garbage truck. I mean, the concept is fine, but the gameplay's so slow. It's not you can't play it today. You just can't. It's way too slow and boring. And then Tapper is the next game that I'm interested in. Tapper, or Root Beer Tapper, if it was changed to, because this Budweiser branded game didn't go over well in young kid arcades, I guess. It's a really original concept where you're serving beer to patrons, and I've actually never played it in an arcade or even seen it in an arcade, but it is on the Midway Arcade Treasures collection on Xbox, and I think PlayStation 2. And it's one of the classic games that I played a lot in my college dorm room with my friends, along with Smash TV and Super Sprint were the games we put the most hours into. But that was fun. Here's an arcade game I've never heard of called Circus Charlie. And it is actually a collection of mini games. They're all circus themed, where you're like a circus clown trying to do these dexterity games. It reminded me a lot of American Gladiators on the Nintendo. Really fun, really fun. That would have been a really fun arcade game to play. A lot of fun variety of what to do, and it isn't like the difficulty level of the games isn't just the games get harder. The games are different, and they're harder because it's a whole different game. It isn't just like the hoops are smaller in the same hoop jumping game. No, it's a whole different trapeze game, and then it's a horse riding game. It's sweet. Those are all the ones I played here, but there are a couple more job ones. There's an excavator game, there's a security guard game. Good little collection. This would be fun to like package somehow and sell like a humble bundle of job games. The 9 to 5, white collar bundle or whatever. Kind of fun. Dizzy is this egg creature that's big in England. I've never played a Dizzy. Well, I shouldn't say I've never played it. I have touched Dizzy games before on various consoles like the Nintendo. Not been a fan. It's essentially a point-and-click adventure game, like a 2D point-and-click adventure, where you're trying to solve puzzles and hit levers, and you're this egg. You know, I haven't. It's not a game that I've been super eager to get into because it doesn't hook me in with a cool character or really a unique concept. So the whole idea kind of bored me, to be honest. But, you know, here's an opportunity to give it a fair shake. So here you see pictures here of the Spectrum version and the Amstrad version. And then here they look at the comparison of all the different versions, and the Amiga one has one of the most vibrant write-ups. It says, "This was a beautifully presented version of one of Dizzy's finest outings, with detailed cartoon-like graphics, lovely animations, a colorful HUD, and a remixed rendition of the C64 theme by Matthew Simmons." So I played the Amiga version, and it does look beautiful and it plays really smooth. I did have to watch a long play to understand how to even get through the first couple screens. I was pretty confused about what even to do. I guess the part I couldn't figure out was you had to jump on the shark fin to swim across the water. Everything else kills you, so I imagine if I got near the shark, it would just eat me. But no, the shark fin is actually just a moving platform, which is a pretty weird device for the user. They could have just been a log, so you know that it's not violent, but instead it's one of the most lethal animals in the world, and they make you use that as a platform. I think that's kind of quite a leap of faith to jump on the shark, but that's what I didn't know what to do. And here it says that in 2015, they released an NES version of this because Philip Oliver, the creator, found the source code in his garage or something. So he released it way late as a Nintendo game. That's really cool, I think. Yeah, I think the game is good, if that's what you're looking for. It's still not really my vibe, so I probably won't be going back and playing a Dizzy game anymore. Here's a Commodore 64 game I've never heard of called Mission Impossible. And I didn't play this, but I'm assuming this is the player character, this evil-looking face, and this very, very dark-looking creature here. That's a hilarious protagonist, if that's the case in this game. This is a Nick Thorp article. Here, Nick Thorp. So Nick Thorp has passed. This might be some of the last content he's produced. Probably this issue and the next issue will be his last work. So, I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be entertained by it. So, The Great Escape Ultimate Guide on ZX Spectrum. The game I've never heard of. Spectrum is a really new console to me. This game got a lot of praise. I highlighted some here in a second. Here it is. The Great Escape is definitely one of the best games I've ever seen on Spectrum, exclaimed one Crash Magazine reviewer in its stunning 96% review. Sinclair user scored the Ocean game a perfect 5 out of 5. It looks, based on the screenshots, also a point-and-click adventure game, like a King's Quest. The concept is you're a POW in a World War II Nazi internment camp, and you have to escape. But in the meantime, you have to pretend you're being a good prisoner by making roll call and going to breakfast and getting your head counted by the soldiers. But in the meantime, you're clipping wires and you're climbing over fences and digging a tunnel. I tried to play this game to complete failure. It was all I ever did was miss roll call and go to solitary, and it was very boring. So I'm showing you footage of a long play so you can actually see the game get played. It's way too obtuse for me, I'm sorry to say. Even though it's a great game and I'm sure it was fun at the time, I do not have the patience for a game this primitive in 2026, you know. But it was fun to try. It's always fun to sample a Spectrum game. Here's a Sonic 2 Secret Service, where they're talking about different secrets in Sonic. I didn't get too into secrets, but I did play Sonic 2, and I'd love to share my thoughts about that during my playthrough. You know what I always say about Sonic? This is Sonic 1 I'm talking about. I say that the game is a scam. And I say that because the Green Hill Zone of Sonic 1 is some of the best designed levels of the era. But then the rest of the game happens, and it's actually garbage. I'm saying it. I'm coming out with that take. The majority of Sonic 1 is trash. Because the whole game is designed around going fast, and that's what their whole ad campaign is. But then the levels are full of slow-moving platforms, instant death pits, spikes, not invisible enemies, but enemies that ambush you from off-screen. The whole idea of the game is you're going too fast to control your character, and then they just have you run straight into a pit. Like, it's the most idiotic, unintuitive design I've ever seen. It's like they designed a Mario game, but made your character, like, insanely fast, and say, yeah, try to run through this level. I mean, it's a fun speedrun game to watch, but as a casual player, it's just god-awful. Now, the first level, Green Hill Zone, on the flip side, it puts you into like a false sense of security. Like, you're playing that level and it's done so well. You get to go super fast. There's all these cool loop-de-loops and spirals and cool jumps and multi-branched paths. And it's really fun. And it's like, I'll buy that game. And then you get to level 2, Marble Zone, and you're like, what is with the lava and slow-moving platforms? Actually, this sucks. And then you get underwater, and that's even worse. But, you know, enough complaining about Sonic 1. This is Sonic 2. And Sonic 2, they really figured it out a lot better. You still get the amazing Green Hill Zone, now with more tricks than ever. But then even the next level, which is like Toxic Waste Plant, I think, has these insanely fast, crisscrossing roller coaster rails, and it's really fun. It does have instant death pits as well, and it also has spikes and crap like that, but they come much later, and they're not as blatant. Sonic 2 is just a much more fun experience, and you get the whole Tails thing, you get the spin dash. It's a really great game. It's a real joy to go back to and play it now. It really stands up well to, like, you know, the greats of the era. Operation Wolf is a light gun shooter, primarily an arcade game, but it was ported to the NES and the the Sega Master System. I'll be honest, I don't actually know what I played and what I captured. I did play the Sega Master System. I don't know if I played the NES version also, but they're very comparable. I will say there's a little weird quirk. If you play the SMS version and you play with the first controller, it doesn't work because it expects it to be a light gun. But if you press start with the second controller, you get a controllable reticle that you can play with your controller. What's remarkable about Operation Wolf compared to other light gun games is your ammo is quite limited in this game. You really have to make every bullet count, and if you start spamming your bullets, you're going to just run out before the level is over, and you'll just die then. So at first, that was kind of shocking to me, and I'm like, oh, this game kind of is very difficult in that way, but it's just because I was being really reckless with my ammo, because I was playing it like, you know, Time Crisis or something like that, right? Like Lethal Enforcers, where you just reload forever. But in this game, you cannot reload forever. Like in this picture, you have only 7 clips. You know, you get more ammo as you shoot, but you got to shoot it, and you can miss some, and it's really tight. The ammo management is a whole element of this gameplay that you're probably not used to in a game like this, so that's really cool. The Japanese version of the arcade had level select, which I guess they removed when they brought it to the States for some reason, because I guess they thought Americans were too stupid to handle level select. Not really sure. Not that it really matters too much either. The game was attacked for being too violent at the time. Got criticized for, the amount of killing you do and how realistic the killing looks. And the arcade version, which I didn't play the arcade version, sorry to say, but the pictures do make the soldiers look pretty realistic. On the Sega Master System, they look a little bit more, like every other game. But you do kill a lot of people. Obviously, violence-wise, this game gets overshadowed pretty quick by Mortal Kombat and Doom coming out pretty soon. I was really happy to see Wing Commander in this magazine because it's a game that I'm familiar with, that I've been adjacent to, but I've never played it. I played X-Wing and TIE Fighter, which I love those games, this open space shooter games. Very, very similar to this, honestly. And I'm a big Descent fan, as you know, but I've never played Wing Commander. So it was a pleasure to fire it up and play it. I really admired the great pixel art during the the cutscene, or the not cutscenes, I guess, but the down sections where you're in your base and just talking to the other pilots. And then the actual flying is really cool too. I did have to download the manual and learn how to use it. It took me a couple tries to really understand this game, but once I did, I really loved it. And I found out through to me it was always a DOS game, right? But I found out here that there was an Amiga version and a Super Nintendo version, which I had no idea. So that's really cool. I should check those out. I didn't, but I made a note too. I'm reflecting on my gameplay here, and something that I noticed that I feel like is often missing in modern games is downtime. Like what you're seeing now is a lot of the first couple levels, so you're just flying around and it's quiet. And it feels really immersive, and it really helps punctuate the action scenes. And I think part of it is because the action scenes in this game, at least for the first two levels, they're not that great. Like the combat is super simplistic and pretty difficult to manage. So to fill the game out, like Descent is only combat, right? Like if you compare this to a Descent game, that's 100% combat, but the combat is really fun. In this game, the combat is really not a highlight. I mean, it is the most action-packed part you're going to see, but it's very difficult to control, and if I did any more of it, it probably would get pretty tiring. Something else that's cool about this is I played the first couple levels twice to really get the hang of it. So you're seeing my second gameplay here, where I'm actually much better than my first. I really fumbled through my first one. But in the first one, on my tutorial mission, you get a squad mate who's a character in the ship. Like she's got cutscenes and lines, and she becomes your squad mate. And in the first mission, she dies. And then there's a whole cutscene of her dying, and they do a space funeral for her. Where they shoot her coffin into space, and they all are standing lined up, and the debrief is different. And I thought that was just the game. That was the cutscene. You lose, your mentor dies, and that gives you stakes, And then I played it the second time when I was much more skilled, and she didn't die. She survived. And the debrief was totally different, and then she appeared at the bar again in the same place where she was before, and I could talk to her after the mission. So, I mean, that's really cool that this game has, sort of, I don't want to call that branching paths, maybe, but consequences for your actions. It's really cool. I want to say I'll go back to this game and play it more, but it is kind of janky nowadays, and there's a lot of better games I want to play like this. But I am glad I got my taste, so I would recommend it. And if you have nostalgia for it, of course, it's worth going back to. I think it is really well done. It doesn't take too much work to figure out what kind of game Simon the Sorcerer is. You can see by this picture right here, you got walk to, look at, open, move, consume, pick up. It's a point-and-click adventure game, and it looks just like King's Quest or Quest for Glory, which are 2 games that I played when they were out back in the day. I also played Legend of Carandia. And, despite me playing these games and completing them, I'm not a big fan of point-and-click adventures. I think they're just rather boring gameplay-wise, and you might as well just watch a long play. There's not enough. It's like if a game was only QuickTime events, and the QuickTime events weren't even timed. It's like leisurely QuickTime events. I don't know. I don't want to rag on a genre. Like, I know walking simulators are games that basically have no gameplay, and I like some of those just for the story. But the puzzles are often just so obtuse that you basically need to have a guide. And if you have a guide next to you while you're playing a game like this, then it's like you're just reading a book, and you're watching a movie that has to interrupt you all the time. I don't know. I'm just complaining. It's not my genre. But I did fire up Simon the Sorcerer because the graphics do look charming, and I walked through a couple of screens, and it's good. And there's a CD version which has full voice acting, and this write-up says the voice acting is really excellent. So if you're going to play a version, I think play the Amiga CD version with that great voice acting. There's a 3D. There's a Simon's Quest 3D, which looks like it was not very good. I don't mean just looks like it. It looks like it in the writing. Like, it did not sell well and wasn't received well. And even the creators aren't super proud of it. They weren't ready to make the jump to 3D, but the publishers are like, no one wants 2D anymore, so better make a 3D game. There's also apparently a pinball table for Simon the Sorcerer, which that I'm interested in. I am interested in that. I should have hunted that down. That's what I should have done. And there's a new version coming out called Simon Origins, which maybe that's what it is. Is that it? No, this is Between Worlds. Simon the Sorcerer Origins. Looking like that. Looking like a nice cartoon. Yeah, if you like Simon, check out that new version. I bet it's really good. Covermount Corner, looking at official UK PlayStation Magazine 31, where they have a lot of different demos included with the magazine, like Gex, Rascals, never heard of it, Terra Incognita, never heard of it. But here's what I was interested in. Play this next. Dynasty Warriors Demo. Now, to me, Dynasty Warriors is this kind of a game where you're, one guy versus hordes of enemies, the Dynasty Warriors series. But this looks like a more straight-up fighting game, like a one-on-one fighting game, which I love. It's my favorite genre. So, let's check it out. Could you believe how long that introduction was? It kept on going, and I was like, this has got to be the last clip, right? It's got to be the last clip. And the music would like swell to a climax, and then it would just play another scene. Really reminds me of the Soul Calibur 2 intro, I remember a lot. And this game has a lot in common with Soul Calibur, I think. I didn't get too deep into the mechanics, but, Soul Calibur and Soul Edge are very similar to this. It's a, a 3D weapon-based fighter with, Asian themes. Really gives me that vibe. Not a bad game at all when I played it. I'm just basically clicking around and trying out a few moves. And everything feels responsive and good. The speed of the gameplay is pretty solid. It doesn't feel too awkward. I would say actually like Bushido feels a lot more awkward than this. And that's a game that I absolutely love. I mean, of course, that's a very different vibe in this. It very much is more like Soul Calibur. And honestly, if I was not so familiar with Soul Calibur, if you put this game in front of me and said, hey, this is some lost Soul Calibur sequel or prequel, I would have totally fallen for it. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad game at all, but also not a game that will be in my memory after today.
Round one, fight!
Music memories for 007 Nightfire. This is a GameCube game, one that I never played. I guess it came out on Xbox as well. I know this is a GameCube game, but I just see here that they're showing Xbox footage. And, the last 007 game I played was GoldenEye, and I love that tremendously. But this is all about the music of Nightfire. I'm sure it's good. The 007 music always has that kind of, cool instrumental vibe. I bet it's a good work music CD. I should check it out. Kill Switch is an Xbox game that I have been adjacent to often. I remember seeing it, I remember thinking about buying it, but never pulled the trigger. I find out here that it was made by the people who did Dead to Rights, which is a game that I absolutely love. It's basically like Max Payne. It's a Max Payne clone. It is, but it has way more mini games and quick time events, I guess. In the early days, you defuse bombs. You have these sniper segments where you have to shoot at people with a sniper reticle. You have a dog, and the dog attacks people. Love Dead to Rights. But yeah, I guess they wanted to make a game that was all about cover shooting, and they used the Dead to Rights engine, which did have some cover in it. But they made a section of it with that engine of just cover fire and shooting, and it was really fun. And then it said the result was a game that didn't just let you hide, it made hiding exciting. And then so this game really pioneered the cover shooter. And then after that, you have all these games that came out after it, like Uncharted Drake's Fortune, which I played a bit, Gears of War, which I love, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, and Binary Domain, games I don't know, but the cover mechanics really owe a lot to this game.
Down, down, down! I don't want to die!
All right, the Lumines review. And I say Lumines because I watched a YouTube video about the new game coming out, and it's called Lumines Arise. Otherwise, I would have been calling this Lumines, and I've called it Lumines my entire life until just now, because now I know what it's actually called. But this is one of my... Well, it's not one of... This is hands down my favorite PSP game. Whenever it's PSP time, I'm playing Lumines, and I show it to all my friends who like puzzle games. Like, if you play Lumines, you have to check it out. It's like a musical-based Tetris-like game where you're making cubes, but it's really about the music and feeling the beat, and it's a very immersive experience when you play it and get into it, and you just, as soon as you lose, you want to start again. It's such an addicting experience. And then going through this interview with the Mizuguchi, what was his first name? Tetsuya Mizuguchi. They talk about how he also made Rez before this on Dreamcast, and I had no idea that the same guy made Rez and Lumines. That's amazing. Like both, I mean, it makes sense now that I think about it. They're both musically oriented games that mix different, genres and music together. But what an amazing series of hits. I guess Rez is more of a cult classic. It didn't resonate too well in early sales, but now it's one of the best games on Dreamcast people talk about. So it was an absolute pleasure to play Rez because I am new to Dreamcast and I'm like eager to check out those Dreamcast games. So I fired up Rez and I played it for a while and I'm into it. That's a game I'll be coming back to for sure. And I introduced Lumines to a friend of mine who is musically inclined and has never played it. And we played it for like 2 hours and chatted up the whole time. I'm not sure if I'll show... I might even play that. I might play us talking for a while. I might cut that up a little bit. Or maybe I won't. I'm not sure. Okay. So you're dropping blocks. And your goal is to make squares of the same color.
Am I rotating?
Yeah, you can
with
rotate.
a button?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a way to not do it.
So you want to make... so that's this block.
A freebie.
Yeah, it's a freebie. So that's connected. Now, when that happens, you can connect more blocks to it as long as it keeps making a rectangle. You can do that. So yeah, you're doing... Yeah, connect those and then try to drop those whites on there. Okay, let's...
Oh, before the line goes over.
Yeah, so the line will clear
God.
on. So that's kind of what... And you want to be careful not to get midway through the line because that'll make a really disgusting mess for you.
Yeah.
I think I already played this game for this magazine review at some point. But happy to play it again. I find myself having the most fun replaying games I played, one magazine ago because I learned them the first time and I'm like, oh, I want to play this again, but I don't have time.
It's like that one person you met at a party that you didn't really exchange numbers with, and then you run into them at the grocery store.
Yeah. It's just
like, hey, wait a minute.
That's just same feeling.
You're in a D&D campaign? I'm in a D&D campaign.
There is a Lumines 2 on PSP, which I've never looked at. I probably should. I mean, I'm just so satisfied with Lumines, the original. But yeah, I should definitely check out 2. I'm sure it's just at least has different music that I could appreciate. And then there is a new game coming out, or is out now, I think, called Lumines Arise, right here, which I'll play the trailer for. It looks amazing, and I hope to play it sometime.
Running through our veins, heartbeat. Love is making waves, emotion. running through our veins. Heartbeat, love is making waves. I'm facing my fears, not backing away. I'm facing my fears, not backing away. We're touching skin to skin, the bodies that we're in. We're feeling everything, we're only human. No superheroes can save us all in the end. We'll break away, we'll bend, we're only human. Emotion running through our veins. Heartbeat, love is making waves.
Burnout Dominator. You know, the Burnout series kind of missed me. I love racing games. I'm a big fan of like Outrun and Split Second and this game Blur and kart games. I love racing games. The arcadey ones mostly, and Burnout is definitely that. But for some reason, it just kind of missed me. I did get Burnout Paradise on PS4 a couple years ago, and I played it for a while, but it didn't really capture me. I guess it's something I don't have nostalgia for. But I have no complaints. I mean, the game is fun, and I've definitely played Paradise a lot, and I like it. But there's something about it that doesn't pull me in. There's a new Silent Hill game that's out now. And again, would you believe that I've never played a Silent Hill game? I haven't. Have not. Another Nick Thorp article about Bubsy, the perfect collection. Bubsy is a bit of an inside joke between me and a friend of mine, where it's a game that he owned on Super Nintendo back in the day, and I always remember hating it and him always wanting to play it. And nowadays, every time I get a new handheld device or a new controller, and he comes over, the first thing he'll say is, "Hey, can you fire a Bubsy on this thing and see how that plays?" And I did fire a Bubsy to play it here, and I was ready for it to be like as annoying as I remembered. And it actually is a pretty reasonable game. It's very playable, and the graphics are nice and charming. The little Bubsy quips are, funny and cute, and you do go way too fast, but you don't have to run that fast. You can just kind of take it slow and measure your jumps, and the game is okay. Bubsy 2 is a similar game as well. And then there's Bubsy 3D, which is actually a disaster and a terrible game. But this collection, they're giving it a 70%, and I love this writing here. It says, "A fantastic collection of middling to awful games." So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I got the collection for you.
Did I mention I don't like heights?
The Retro Roundup is full of fun today. I highlighted a lot of different games here. I did not play all of them, but what I did play is Bubble Bobble on the Sega Master System from Taito Arcade 1. Bubble Bobble has been a really big part of my childhood. I spent a lot of sleepovers with friends playing the Nintendo version of Bubble Bobble in co-op mode. And, there's 100 levels in the game, and I have beaten it multiple times with multiple friends. The last boss is this really cool, large monster, and then you have to do this lightning bolt, bubble jump, complicated maneuver in the game to beat him. It's pretty cool and feels really impactful to do it. I found out much later in life that there's actually an arcade version of Bubble Bobble, which, in the last 10 years, and it's really good, and I've played that a bunch. And then later, I found out there's a Sega Master System version. I mean, I guess I always knew there was such a version, but I thought it was just inferior to Nintendo. But it's actually the opposite. The Sega Master version is even better than a Nintendo version that I spent dozens of hours on. Unfortunately, I was not able to get any co-op gameplay, but that would definitely be the way to go.
This version has less flicker, better colors, and from what I can tell, the same music as the Nintendo version, but it's a lot smoother to play. So yeah, check this one out for sure if you're a fan.
And other games that are on here that I didn't play, but I can mention. Growl is a really cool arcade beat 'em up which is very violent and kind of has a different feel. It's really cool. I don't know what Doko Don is, and I don't know what Colony 7 is. Space Invaders is one that, everybody's familiar with. And then Legend of Kage is here, which we did for NES A to Z recently as well, and we gave it a hidden gem status. It's a really good Nintendo game that is underappreciated. And then Taito Arcade 2, and I did not play Bubble Bobble on arcade, although I could have. I played it on Sega Master System because I wanted to show that off. And Legend of Kage, I actually didn't know that was an arcade game. I only know it as a Nintendo game, so that's interesting. So Taito Arcade 2, here, Liquid Kids, which I'm not familiar with. Rastan, again, I played the Sega Genesis version of Rastan, not the arcade version, because I was interested in it. And Volified. Volified, I know, is a game that's like Kicks, but like way over the top. It is very difficult, as you'll see. And then they mention Operation Wolf, Elevator Action, Kiki, Kai Kai, and the Electric Yo-Yo. Now that I'm reading through this, like, why did I not look into these games? They're all so interesting sounding. I'm coming back to right some wrongs, and I went back and played some more of the games that I regret not playing while I was reading that magazine. So you can hear the regret in my voice. Like, why didn't I play these? I just got lazy, I guess. But a couple days have gone by, a couple weeks, and I went back to play those and get them. So this is Rastan on arcade, and it's a game I'm absolutely not familiar with, and it really does play like a Sega Genesis game. Like, this just feels like a Sega Genesis game, maybe with slightly more colors. But yeah, it's really fun, actually. Like, it's a platform. It reminds me a lot of kind of a Castlevania vibe in the way that your movement is pretty deliberate and slow, although you attack while moving, so that feels really slick. And it also reminds me of Legendary Axe on TurboGrafx 16. Maybe a mixture of those games. Difficulty very high. It looks like you die in about 2 to 3 hits. You die. Some things do more damage than others, but yeah, you die really easily. And it is pretty tough not to get hit because your hitbox is huge. But definitely has a strong Conan the Barbarian vibe, and that, if you're looking for something like that, it's awesome. It's in the same family as, like, what's that game? Black Tiger or Magic Sword. All those games are in this kind of same ballpark, and really cool and fun. So I'll be honest, I played this game thinking it was Rastan on Sega Genesis, but it's actually Rastan 2, the sequel,
on Sega Genesis. So it looks quite a bit different. And when I played this before the arcade version, and I was like, that's not how I remember this game looking, from like, you know, the magazine pictures and just my memory. But yeah, it's actually a totally different game. It's a sequel. And in this game, the thing you'll notice most probably is how just incredibly chunky the sprites are. Like, your character is humongous. And that makes the hitbox huge too, so the game is really hard to play for that reason. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for some barbarian hack and slash action, this sequel will not disappoint you. It's very playable. The controls feel fine. You move pretty slowly, but other than that, like, responsive, and the hitbox is big, but your attacks are also pretty vast, so you can defend yourself well. Yeah, it's an okay game. Probably not one I'll go back to though. This game's called Ramos, I think. I'm not sure how to say the name, but I actually didn't even list it when I was reading the magazine. It came after Legend of Kage. But as you can see, it's some kind of a Pac-Man clone with a science fiction theme, where you're like a spaceship trying to eat these dots, and there's enemy spaceships chasing you. There's no power pellets in this game. There's power-ups that appear at random after you eat dots. So some dots have like maybe a power-up inside, and when you run over them, they pop out. It took me a couple levels to figure this out, but one of your buttons makes you go in like hyper mode. And it's pretty tricky because you can't tell. There's no graphical change that your ship's going faster. Like a little fire behind you would be good. You just have to like notice. And it's not a big increase in speed, so it's sort of hard to notice. But it is necessary to run away from these monsters or enemy ships. But yeah, as a Pac-Man clone, this game is really cool. I might even like it. You know, it's too early to say, but theme-wise, I do like this better than Pac-Man. Like, this theme feels more interesting to me than, like, the random whatever Pac-Man's theme is. You'll notice these green enemies, they're just following a scripted path. They're just going in, like, a patrol pattern. I didn't realize that at first, because the red guys were, like, chasing me hardcore. I thought these guys were moving randomly, but no, they're just following a loop. And I think that's really cool, so you have like different enemies that do different things in the level, and you can play around them in that way. That's fun. And there's power-ups that are different. You get a laser cannon that lets you kill the bad guys. I have this shield here that protects me from a hit. This game seems like it's got a lot of design space to explore, and I'm going to definitely go back to it. Here's Doko Don. It is a Bubble Bobble like, I would say. It's a single screen action platformer. There's about 1 million of these, and Tato made about half of those. Yeah, but then the game pretty simplistic. So you hit bad guys with your hammer, and they flatten out, and then you can pick up their bodies and use them as weapons. So that reminds me a lot of Snow Brothers, Nightmare in the Dark, Bubble Bobble, of course. You don't really pick up the bad guys in Bubble Bobble, but very similar concept to, like, you know, the way the levels are set up. Like, I swear to God, this level is a Bubble Bobble level. Like, the platform layout here, it's like, I remember it, you know? But yeah, in the few levels that I played, it's 2-player co-op, of course, so the same fun you have playing Bubble Bobble, you can apply to this game. The colors are awesome. The music is good and friendly. It's one of those just joyful video game experiences, but really conceptually interchangeable with Bubble Bobble. It's hard to say it's a better game. You just play any one of these and it'd be fine. So variety is always nice. This is Pirate Pete, another game that I didn't even get around to listing, but it was on one of those Tato collections. You can tell by the graphics here that this game is very old. It's an old arcade game, and it looks like kind of an Atari game. I think like there's a... I forgot what game this reminds me of, where it's like a reskin of that game, like Jungle Adventure or something like that. There's some game where you do the same kind of thing. You're jumping on vines here, but here you're jumping on ropes on a pirate ship. You can see me completely botching it up. I do get the hang of it in a little bit. It's sort of weird how you leap off these. The animation on those ropes is great, though. Look at that. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game for like being an old arcade game. It's pretty cool, and the animation's really smooth. I would see myself really enjoying this back in the day. Even today. Here's Volfeed on arcade. How to explain this game? It's very hard. So I'm the little glowing piece that is on the side of the screen, and you hit the button and enter the playfield, and you start like carving a path. And you have to carve it off and close it off, and then that part of the world is like turns a different color, I guess. And your goal is to cover up 80% of the playfield without, being killed. And there's, all the monsters are out there trying to get you. Now, when you're on the side of the screen, you are immune to their attacks. But once you start carving in, then they can kill you, and they will try to. Now, the magazine did actually have a typo. It called this game Volified, and that's how I read it. But it is not Volified, it's Volfeed. And it's a sequel to Qix, which is spelled Qix, a game that I've played a little bit on Atari with this concept. And there's a game on my old Mac computer called Berserk by Ambrosia Software, which also has a similar concept. Although in that game, you play it a little bit different, but it's got the same idea of you covering up the screen by 80%. Here's a good example of how you do this. So watch, I cover up, see, like where that big snake monster is not, you can destroy that. I don't know how to explain it. I hope it made sense when you saw it, but that was a really good way to beat the first level. And here is Volfeed on Sega Genesis. It's the Genesis home port of the arcade. And, the biggest difference probably here is that it's more of a landscape or horizontal playfield than the, more vertical Galaga-style playfield of the arcade. It does feel quite a bit more claustrophobic, too, because of that. And the other difference is the music on Genesis is repulsive. Music and sound effects are really hard to listen to. So, play it with the volume down. But that being said, I think as a home port of the arcade game, this is really good. And the game is enjoyable, and it rewards practice. And it'd be a fun game to, get good at. I think it's a really cool experience. And then down here we have Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 for Switch 2. And if you have a Switch 2 and you've not played Mario Galaxies, you gotta. Galaxy, I've been playing Galaxy 2 off and on for months. And I'm showing the footage of Galaxy 2 right now on my Wii. Absolutely delight. An absolute delight. You can't go wrong with one of the mainline Mario games. They're just all so brilliant. And here for only $12, the Puzzle Quest Immortal Collection, available on basically everything. PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox. And I've played this game on PSP many times, and I'm a huge fan of it. Every time I fire it up, I end up playing it for a couple hours. Really love the RPG and Match 3 combination. Very addicting. And when I play it, I always feel so stupid because I always do the most simple thing, 3 yellows, and then the computer player will do a match 5, match 4, and wipe me out. And I'm like, why didn't I just see that, But I am getting a little bit better at it.
Your hero is near death. steps to defeat.
Here's the homebrew section. Something I was very excited to see is they're featuring the Yandex RGB competition, which is something that I talked about last magazine as well, where they feature the same games in a different context. But they have these awesome Spectrum homebrews from the Russian community, Cubics and Asymmetry, and also this driving game, which I didn't like as much. But Asymmetry and Cubics, I was just excited to play again and show some more footage of them. They're so cool.
I've given this game like 4 honest attempts to like not use save states, just play all the way through until I get a game over, you know? And I feel like I'm getting pretty far into it, maybe even close to beating it. I'm not, I guess I have no idea how long it is, but I feel like I've gotten pretty far and I've seen most of the content, and it's just really amazing what this creator has done with the limited color palette, the limited resources available. And I've played a lot of ZX Spectrum games of the time now. I mean, I don't want to say a lot, but like I've been exploring the Spectrum, and I've played a lot of the games of the time, and very rarely do they take color as far as this game is taking it. It's just really well done. I can imagine a game like this game being remade as a Steam indie game. Obviously it needs to be enhanced a little bit so that it's a little smoother and less primitive looking, but conceptually, I think as like a run and gun with this like female protagonist and these in Spectrum style graphics, this has some legs to be like a pretty big indie hit, I think. You should check this out. It's free to play. You just need to emulate Spectrum. Now, Cubics here, I've also tried to play a couple of times to completion. Well, I'm not even close in this game. I was hoping I'd get to a place where the color of the level is different, but I got stuck at the exact same point all 3 times I've tried this game. And it's hard to even describe where that point is, but I just get to a point where I'm walking in circles and I don't know where to progress. There should be some spot where I'm reaching a new height or going down lower than I normally could, but I just couldn't. But that takes nothing away from how amazing this game looks and how really cool the gimmick is, the 3D gimmick. Here I am about to, you have to unlock the 3D gimmick here as I climb this mountain. It's a really cool moment.
And here's a really cool one. And these games are free. You can just go download them as Spectrum ROMs, and you can play them. And then speaking of free, this game is free too. Outrun Game Boy. It's a Game Boy Color demake of Outrun, and it is awesome. So check that out. You can go download that ROM for free. Well, it's pay what you want on itch. And so you can Google Outrun GB, or you can go to bit.ly/Outrun GB. I'll try to put a link on the screen so you can see what it is. Here's a spread where Darren, Nick Thorp, and Tim Empey, sorry, I'm sorry, are talking about their favorite 3D platformers. Talking about what inspired Banjo Kazooie, and they go through a variety of games that I had a great time playing. And Mario 64 is one of the primary ones that started everything, right? I mean, it was the game that nailed it. Like I said, comparing Mario 64 to Banjo, even though Banjo came after, Mario 64 really just knocks its socks off. The fact that there's no tutorializing, you're right in the action right away. It's so much quicker, it's so much snappier to play it, and so much more simple to play it too. Now, I mean, Banjo's a good game, but I think Mario still holds up so well, and they had nothing to base it on. Like Banjo, the developers of Banjo could have looked at Mario and then learned lessons from it. Mario was the first to really make this 3D stuff happen, And something else that I really appreciate about Mario is the creative direction they took with using the paintings in a castle as a way to go to different worlds. That's such an innovative way to do it. If you think back to all the other Mario games, Super Mario World, you're on a world and you're traveling to different locations in that world. It's very kind of A to B. It's a rudimentary system, and Mario 3 was like that too. You're on a map. And Mario 1, you're just kind of going through levels. But then Mario 64 introduced this hub, and the hub has these connectors, and what the connectors are these paintings, which give you a lot of more room to play with what kind of world you go to, because it's not tied to the real world. You can go somewhere totally different, like a zone in the clouds, or one that's fully underwater, places that maybe can't exist in the real world. Although, as I say that, I know in Mario 3, you go to a cloud world, and you definitely go to a water world as well, so I like the paintings, alright? Just leave me alone. Coming back over here, Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast. Like I said, I like to flex my Dreamcast muscles when I can. I'm not the biggest Sonic fan in the world, and from what I hear, the sentiment is that Sonic 3D games aren't that good. But I'll tell you what, the first level of this is awesome. I mean, you don't really do much but hold forward and push A sometimes, but it feels really fast, and it goes well. It goes great. I had a good time with that first section.
Jump on panel number 1.
It will take you to panels 2 and 3. Jump as soon as you land on a panel or else you'll fall.
And then Spyro the Dragon. Really love this. I think the graphics on Spyro and the animation on it are so beautiful. Some of the best on the PlayStation, I think. Spyro is an awesome game. And those gems that you pick up in that game look so good. Those are the best gems ever made in video game history. And there's a lot of gems in video games, but the Spyro gems are the best. And here I finally get around to playing some Jumping Flash. This game was before Mario 64, I think. So I guess I said that they had nothing to draw from. They could draw a little bit from Jumping Flash. And Jumping Flash is a real awesome game that surprised me a lot. I thought it would, like, I've seen it in like videos, right? Like I've seen it on YouTube as a essential game on PlayStation, and it looked kind of bad. You know, it looked kind of very, like, the movement was very robotic and slow, but when you play it, that's exactly what the game needs. And the movement being slow and deliberate is part of it. And really what you're enjoying is the really imaginative levels you're in. Very, very cool levels. I do love Jumpin' Flash. I beat that game. I beat the whole game and started over on like the second quest, like hard mode, which some people say is when the game actually starts. Like the whole first beating it is a tutorial, and then you go into the real game. And I got about halfway through that, and then I did start a Jumpin' Flash 2 game as well, and that is, you know, more of the same. Both great games. Really love them.
Get ready. Yeah.
Here's a big Star Wars piece of a lot of different Star Wars games, and the one I really wanted to touch on is Knights of the Old Republic, which is an RPG series that I really love and I would love to chat about.
Those of you who haven't played Knights of the Republic, if you're, too young or whatever, if it came out today, it would be called Mass Effect, but the Star Wars license. And, that fits because it's a BioWare sci-fi RPG where, there is Jedi power, whereas in Mass Effect they call it, biotic power. Here it's just called Jedi power. And it has the morality system that we've all grown to maybe hate, where you can make decisions that are coded as good or bad, and, they lead to different outcomes. And this gameplay is not super exciting of just showing that I do have a save file that's pretty deep of KOTOR 2, and I've been stuck on this planet for like legit 5 years. And I love the game. Okay, I love Knights 1. I've beaten it probably 6 times over the, I got it on Xbox and I've had it ever since. I got into 2 pretty late. I ended up picking it up at like a garage sale once, and I got into it, and I never really got that far at the time it came out. And then since then I've gone back to it a couple of times, and I've been stuck on this planet for so long. Like, I just don't know what to do to get off of it, and I always take 6 months off, and I don't remember where I'm at. But I picked it up again and had some fun, But I wanted to muse a little bit, take this opportunity to just talk about the morality in games fad And, I'm definitely sick of it, But I want to talk about why it's so busted. And Knights of the Republic is one of the main reasons. Like I said, I beat it 6 times, and I've beaten it as a Jedi and as a Sith. And here's why I don't like it. It's because it's impossible to write a sensible story when you're taking into account completely, polarizing characters. And that means, you have allies in your game, allies that are on your team, your squad mates. Particularly Bastila from KOTOR 1, who's a goody-two-shoes Jedi, okay? Now, she would never stand by and let you be evil as a character that makes any sense. When you're playing a bad guy, what are you doing? You're force-persuading merchants to give you discounts. You're taking, obviously evil missions from evil people. And sometimes you just straight up kill people you don't like without any kind of cause or, process. Against the Jedi Code, you know what I mean? And she's, assigned to be your counselor, your Jedi, chauffeur throughout the mission. In the first Knights of the Old Republic, you get your Jedi powers and they send her with you to, observe you. And then she just lets you do these horrible things. And that she's not the only ally like that. She's just the most good. There are other allies that wouldn't let you do that too. And it's not just this game. It's even Jade Empire, which carries over this tradition. And even places like Fable, where, if you remember playing Fable, you go to a place in Fable called the Heroes Guild, where the heroes go, where townsfolk, put in jobs they need done, you need to slay wolves or whatever. But then the missions in the Hero Guild have an evil path. So, someone from the townsfolk comes in and says, I need to protect my farm from bandits. And then the bandits come to the same Heroes Guild, and they deposit a mission that is, I need more mercenaries to raid a farm. And those are both just hosted in the Heroes Guild. That doesn't make any sense. From the perspective of the story, that makes no sense. So, I mostly think it's just always bad. And I remember back when I played Dungeons and Dragons, as a kid, I was reading the book, and it's when you're picking your alignment as a character, it recommends that you pick a good alignment. Because the world makes more sense when there's a few noble heroes fighting off the hordes of darkness than when there's just, evil people exploiting and brutalizing citizens. And I think that's just very true from a video game sense. I'm not a fan of being the bad guy, especially when the game lets you pick to be the good guy. I don't like it. And I think it's generally poorly written. Now, I will say Mass Effect probably does it the best. And the way I explain it in Mass Effect is Star Trek analogy. The good guy Shepard, the Paragon Shepard, is Captain Picard. And the Renegade Shepard is Lieutenant Worf. Now, Lieutenant Worf is a good character in Star Trek. And, just the way he would do things is very different than Picard. And that makes more sense. It isn't evil per se. It's just, and justify the means kind of stuff. It's more believable. And I think Mass Effect does do it the best. So it's a good thing BioWare tried so many times. But I think that Knights of the Republic is actually a complete failure in letting you be a Sith Lord. Unless they wrote in some serious conflicts with your squad mates. If they wrote in some conflicts with your squad mates because of your alignment, I think the game would have been saved. But as it stands, Bastila just standing behind you while you, execute someone, it's insane. Anyway, I do love this game a lot, and I need to finish it.
Here's a Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on Nintendo DS. I didn't play this just because I know that I'm not going to have time to get into a Legend of Zelda game, but I'm sure it's a great one. I still haven't beaten Link to the Past. Ugh. Sorry. I have started it 3 times, but I just cannot commit. And something always happens to my save game, my computer breaks, or I get a new computer, or I change emulators, something always happens. I like the game. I like it. I just haven't been able to finish it. And then finally we have the end game for this arcade fighting game called Galaxy Fight by Neo Geo. For the Neo Geo. I've never heard of it, never played it, and I love fighting games, and I fired this one up to play it a little bit, and boy, did I get my butt kicked. I got nowhere on this game. So you're going to be seeing some gameplay footage from a different YouTube channel so you can actually see something happen. Otherwise, it's just me getting my ass completely handed to me. But like a lot of other Neo Geo games, this one has the cool sprite scaling effects. So when you get far from each other, it like zooms out. And when you get close, it zooms in. Really awesome effects that if I saw at the arcade when I was young, I thought that was just such amazing graphics. So it does have that. But the game itself is some intergalactic kind of aliens fighting each other in a galactic tournament sort of a vibe. Looks okay, but not one of my top 5 fighting games, that's for sure.
Time up. Julie wins.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on that read-through, and I hope you had a good time watching all those games get played, and you got some ideas of what you can play yourself. If you made it all the way to the end, I mean, you got to give me a like now, right? You got to give me a like. And maybe even leave a comment, talk about your favorite game, and give me your experience. I want to hear about that. Hope to see you again next month, and have a great rest of the year.